What's good, locos? This is Angel from the Monsters of the Morning on Real Radio 104.1, and you're listening to the voice of UCF, Marc Daniels, and the Beat of Sports on FM 96.9 The Game. You want real sports talk? You got it right here.
The guy who's going to win Best of Orlando Sportscast right here. I mean, we're nominated. I'm nominated, or the show's nominated, but Angel always wins.
I didn't get nominated for anything.
That's cool. We love Angel. You can vote, though, at Orlando Weekly for Best of Orlando. The problem is, as I get older, and I'm not very good, I'm not in that demo anymore.
Well, like with anything, it's all about how many people can you get to vote? What's your reach? If you're on social media, hey, vote for me, vote for me. We don't really campaign for ourselves.
Yeah, that's our problem. Welcome to the Wednesday edition of the Beat of Sports. I'm Marc Daniels. That's Chris Vasquez. You can listen at FM 96.9, AM 740. You can watch our stream live. Maybe we'll do like a behind-the-scenes run today. Just let the camera and mic open during breaks.
Okay.
You know?
Yeah.
I mean, imagine watching Chris call a guest to get on the show. Huh?
Should I leave my mic on too?
Yeah. Maybe someone to call me and I'll have the phone call up. Yeah. A little behind the scene. We'll do it a few times today.
All right.
And you can always listen to the iHeart app, the free iHeart app, where you can make sure to put this station as one of your presets. Go to the iHeart app and search 96.9 The Game. You can always catch us in podcast form, too, where you get your podcast time of the Beat of Sports on demand. Going to get to the NBA draft from last night. I was a little feisty about draft coverage.
You were.
Wasn't I?
Nothing wrong with it, though.
Yeah, it's just it's all one big happy night. And not that that's not okay to celebrate a special night for players, but, you know.
It's okay to question a pick.
Well, 364 days of the year, the network that carries the NBA and does draft coverage has shows designed to bring on talking heads to say things. Sometimes it's outlandish and stupid, but not last night. Everything was great last night. Every pick was great. Every pick, was a smart pick. It was the right pick. Everything was great. Like, I could have used one guy to go, I don't think that was a good pick, and here's why I don't think it's a good pick. And I think this organization's going nowhere.
There's nothing wrong with saying that.
Yeah. So, anyway, we'll get to the draft. Magic have the 46th pick. We'll see if they keep it. Second round is always interesting. OKC pick up 5 second-round picks yesterday? Unbelievable. Sam Presti's going to trade them for Bitcoin. The Knicks traded into the second round, and they're not expected to keep their pick either. But we'll do the draft stuff a little bit. Keith Smith also coming on today for his weekly visit. We'll chat with him. Yesterday, Chris, you were the first to text me. I don't know what time that was about the Sorsby stuff.
Mm-hmm.
I wasn't on my phone, and we'll get to that briefly as well.
Texted you at 1:52.
Yeah. Sometimes, rarely these days, there's an adult in the room that says, stop. This is how it's going to be. But no buts.
But Mark, he's addicted to gambling. That shouldn't be held against him.
I have had no issue of resources provided to allow any individual to deal with an addiction that they have to get that under control. But later in the program, Eric Blevins is going to join us. Eric teaches law at Tulane and focusing on sports law. He's got some interesting thoughts on the Sorsby case. We'll get to that, among many things, on the program. Did you watch any of the Columbia game, or you went right to bed? Last night of being a bachelor again. Family's coming back today, huh?
Yep. Wifey comes back today. I closed the bar. We closed at 9. I left around 10 after cleaning up everything. Got home about 10. I had to get gas.
With a bag of pork rinds.
I got
soda, laid back in the bed and crunched away all night.
No, I stopped and got gas, so I got home about 10:45-ish.
There had to be a late night snack that you're like, my wife would never be okay.
Actually, no.
No?
I did have myself a nightcap, though.
Okay.
Had one final beer before bed. I did have the Columbia match on.
Do you like pistachio nuts?
Pistachios, yes.
Yeah. So my youngest daughter gave me a bag of pistachio nuts. She claims that my Father's Day gift is coming, I don't know, the next 8 months or something like that. And I like pistachio nuts, but I have to take a small handful and put the bag away because it's beyond addiction.
Yep.
Like
They're
if you
good.
put it, but
Do you get shell or no shell?
shell,
Okay. Salted or unsalted?
salted.
Okay.
But it's almost like so. Yesterday, I came back. It was hot yesterday. I came back from my jog, and my wife was at the cell phone store, so she was gone for 5 hours. Um, her and my youngest went. My oldest went to upgrade their phones.
Mhm.
Anyway, and I was just scrolling through Twitter, and I looked on the kitchen counter with a paper towel. I built like a mountain of shells. I was like, "What the hell just happened here?" Yeah, addiction. Those are
They are.
dangerous.
They are. They're very good. At least they're good for you.
Not too many. The salt will begin to pile up. Not too much.
They are so good, though.
All right. We come back. We'll get to the draft last night. I got a few thoughts on that. The Brendan Sorsby ruling by the National Football League. But first, here's everybody's favorite segment.
It's almost like an unwritten rule that when you become a father, you become king of the bad dad jokes.
What is Forrest Gump's password? One Forrest one.
Are you ready to laugh? We know at least one person is. Here's CB's dad joke of the day.
Oh, that's so great.
Always got my sign. I always forget my mug.
Yeah.
Are you ready?
Yeah, I'm ready. Hit me.
All right. What do we got here? Mark, why can't your nose be 12 inches long?
I don't know, Chris. Why can't my nose be 12 inches long?
Then it would be a foot.
Yeah, got it. One of my favorite things, Chris, about the NFL, but more the NBA, because, and the NFL does it too, we do the one round on Thursday and then come back. So the NBA does one round. So I love the draft expert that offers a draft grade, which really is a grade based on what their mock draft was and if the team chose the player that they suggested or projected, and then they get a good grade. The Wizards choosing A.J. DeBonsta last night over Darren Peterson, if you think Peterson was a better player going into the draft, do you think the Wizards made the right pick? Maybe not. But I give him an A. So the Wizards took the projected number one pick of the draft, and you would give it anything but what? So I love the draft grade today. I just love the draft grade.
I love the grades that come out, and then within minutes, guys traded or not even on that team. So,
well, again, that's the crazy part about it. But look, last night was somewhat predictable early in the draft. For several picks, it's as projected. And I think a couple things are happening in the NBA, and share some thoughts on the NFL side. But the game is so well scouted these days. It's so well scouted. Now, I may not like the fact that we have rankings of like 9-year-olds who play basketball right now, but particularly when you get to the high school circuit, and I say circuit because it isn't even so much a high school team anymore, it's hard to fly under the radar. And because the elite players are playing so many international tournaments or competition, you begin to see how players stack up. Darren Peterson and A.J. DeBonsta have played against each other before, not just in the Big 12 this year. They played against each other before. The Boozer twins played against. So I think the game's so well scouted. And then I also think information shared is greater than it's ever been. So I'm not saying it's easy, but I do think by the time you get to last night's draft, there's not many hidden things that are going on. So I think it's easier to project the top part of an NBA draft right now.
I don't think it is, because you have the transfer portal and guys are in different systems every single year. And then you have the money aspect where do they really care about the game, or
that didn't apply last night to guys that were one and done. That was the system that they were in. I mean, we've now moved to that where guys have to go to college for 1 year. So you had to go down a little ways before you found guys that played multiple years. But, and again, there'll be hit and misses here. The biggest thing we're going to look back on for this particular draft is if Darren Peterson becomes this elite scorer. And people say, well, he may have been a better pick. But it's also based on the team that they're going to and what that team. For example, Bradenbury's a kid at Arizona who I loved. I mean, I saw him this year a lot. I think he's in a terrible spot in Milwaukee. If he's one, I think Milwaukee's going to move some of the parts they got from Miami, but brand new coach, no idea the system, no idea about the players to know what his role is going to be right now. Doesn't mean he can't be a good player. I just think it's a really tough spot to get to. 10 o'clock hour, WY, General Orlando, WJR, HD2, Cocoa Beach. A.J. DeBonsta. Whether you think he's the first or second player in this draft, okay? He now goes to a team who just spent over $200 million bidding against no one else, by the way, to keep a player that commands the ball and doesn't do really anything to help players around him get better. With a frontline big, whatever position you want to put Anthony Davis in, that you don't know if he's going to play. Does the 4-year, it's 3 years, but trust me, in 3 years, Trae Young is not going to find anybody else offering him $50 million. He's picking up that option, okay? Does Trae Young help or hurt A.J. DeBonsta? Well, we have to go see. Maybe Trae Young has learned and now at the new start in Washington. But if he hasn't, that's not the best situation for A.J. DeBonsta to develop in. Like Peterson goes to a team which has a lot of young talent. And it's going to get chances to score immediately. That may be a great spot for him. Boozer goes to Memphis. Okay, resolve the Ja Morant situation for me, right? So a lot of these guys, it's just based on where you're going and what they have, who the coach is. Is it a coach that's going to be there for a couple years to develop? Is it somebody that's on a hot seat? I mean, all this stuff. Keen Wagler goes to the Clippers, and I'm watching Mike O'Donnell's best friend, tongue-in-cheek, Lawrence Frank, and he's up there explaining, like, the Clippers. Like, good luck. So I think it's a good draft. A lot of these, it just depends on where you're going and what the expectations can be for these guys. So we'll see. More on the draft coming up with Keith Smith when he joins us in our next segment. The news came down early afternoon yesterday regarding Brendan Sorsby. Chris, I mentioned this in the bridge. I'm not saying I was the only one, but when the news came out about Sorsby, I did say, are we assuming that there's going to be a supplemental draft? He has to resolve the situation with the judge. Remember, they went to a judge saying, make me ineligible. They had to go back to the judge to say, make me eligible again, and then go to the National Football League and then explain why you're not eligible. I mean, as confusing as it is. And then you had to tell the National Football League, I'd like to be considered for a supplemental draft. And all I did that morning was do what anybody else can do. Admit, I don't know all the rules of the supplemental draft. Look up, see how often it's been held. You see that we've had supplemental drafts in recent years where nobody was chosen. We've had drafts where somebody was chosen. Make sure I knew what the rules were, that we divide the teams into 3 groups based on 6 wins or less, or non-playoff teams, playoff teams. You put in a bid based on a round, and then you lose that draft pick. And, oh, by the way, how does one qualify? And all I did was say, hey, this isn't a done deal, but everybody ran with it. He's in the supplemental draft. And I, okay. And then once I saw, okay, the judge said, fine, you're ineligible again, I just assumed people said he's got a pro day coming up. And yesterday, the National Football League became the adult in the room. And whether the National Football League either jumped on to what the Big 12 did, or the National Football League said, no, we're good. We don't need a supplemental draft. What do you mean? He applied for the draft. Not really. You contacted us and asked us to have a draft for you. You didn't provide the information that we typically seek of all people that want to draft. What is unique about your situation that you have lost eligibility? And please provide as much information as you can, and then our committee that is instructed will then evaluate your situation and determine that it is unique, that makes us then move forward to having a supplemental draft on the guidelines that the players collectively bargained with us. And the National Football League said, 1, you didn't provide really anything. You just said, hey, we want to be in the draft. And 2, here's why. We simply think that you've got something you maybe need to address. You didn't show any remorse. The whole issue about eligibility, we're good. We're good. It's a not a right, it's a privilege to play in the National Football League. And we don't think that applies to you right now. So good luck. We'll see you in April of 27. His attorney, Jeffrey Kessler's losing his mind and will file a lawsuit. But Roger Goodell and his legal team do not put that out unless they feel pretty good about where they stand legally. Right? That's not the AG at Texas. It's like, I got an idea. Oh, man, that was bad. Never mind.
How much do you think all these guys talking on Sorsby's behalf hurt him?
None.
You don't think so?
No, I mean, I know what you're saying. Did all this stuff. No, I think at some point when the whole thing went down in Texas Tech's like, well, he's not going to be part of our team, the NFL probably got together, the legal team, and said, okay, what is our position going to be? Whether it's Goodell or the people that are in charge of that, and said, let's wait and see what they do. But we're not obligated to do anything for them. And then just read the letter. The letter basically said, you didn't provide us anything. You just said you want to be in a supplemental draft. Well, I want to be in a draft because I lost my eligibility. Why'd you lose your eligibility? Well, I lost my, and the league, here's why you lost your eligibility.
Well, it's probably also not a good look that he went to a judge to get the eligibility. Now you're going to go back to the judge.
Letter.
Like, that's not a good look.
They mentioned that in the letter.
It's not a good look.
And then the other part was, listen, you didn't show any remorse here. And like I said to Kelly on the bridge, You can call the NFL hypocritical because of its gambling partners. And I'm repeating myself. Then you got to do it with alcohol and food because gambling, alcoholism, obesity, they're addictions. They're addictions. It doesn't mean that you can't act within the rules or do something within reason. Right?
Mhm.
I mean, there's a difference of Chris sitting on his couch watching the Cowboys with no plans to go anywhere and drinking a third or fourth beer, knowing that when it's over, I'm going to bed, versus I'm going to have the fifth or sixth beer and get in a car and drive. You have responsibility to actions, right? You want to be in good health? Don't become obese. I mean, we have and the National Football League basically said, yes, we have gambling partners. And we remind people to gamble responsibly. And what they said here is, you weren't responsible. You chose to do things and just assume that we're going to change a rule for you. And an adult in the room stood up and said, not in this house. And said, we'll see you in April.
I wish more people in college football would do that.
Chris, it's not that more people in college football don't do it.
All they care about is winning and money.
No, Chris. A lot of people in college football have tried to do it. They end up losing in court. The NCAA has tried to enforce their rules.
I'm not talking about the NCAA.
They've lost in court. Yeah. The Big 12's membership asked its leader to hold the line. And he did. With actions. And it worked. Keith Smith on last night's NBA draft, the big Giannis news, Julius Randle, all that stuff. His weekly basketball segment's next.
Time to talk basketball with Keith Smith. The latest on the Magic and around the NBA. Follow Keith on Twitter at Keith Smith NBA.
All right, a lot to get to with Keith. And again, you can follow him on X or Twitter, Keith Smith NBA. Keith, good morning. How are you?
I'm doing well. Thanks for having me.
Let me start in the draft. I don't know if there's a particular pick where things, maybe didn't go as people had projected. So I'll give you a chance. Any thoughts as you watch the first round unfold?
Yeah, the first probably 8 picks or so played out pretty much as expected. There was a little question what the Clippers and Nets would do, but those had seemed to firm up there. The Hawks were very engaged in trade talks for number 8, but were expected to either take a guard or a big. They took ultimately Kingston Flemings, where things kind of went, I don't want to say crazy because it wasn't like a major reach or anything. When Dallas picked Morez Johnson at 9, that was definitely a bit of a surprise. He was one of the highest risers in the draft process from where he was. And then we kind of went back to the chalk. There was no real super overreaches. And other than Cameron Carr, who most people, myself included, had projected as like a later lottery guy, maybe middle of the first round, he dropped into the mid-20s, but nobody else really dropped overly far either.
Keith, I said before, sometimes it's where you go and the situation of that team. Will you get a chance to play immediately? Do you have a coach that's on a hot seat that determines the early success? And you could pick any part of the draft. Are there players you feel like, man, this is a great spot to come and immediately make an impact, and maybe somebody you're like, boy, I don't know because of what's going on with this team?
Yeah, it's funny. I'll give you one that kind of covers off on both, and that's Darius Acuff Jr. The runway to playing time is wide open for him. They don't have any kind of point guard option on the team currently that isn't a pending free agent, so that should open things up. But the Kings' track record with developing players has not been great either. So you kind of worry about him with that part, even if you like the fact that he'll be able to play right away. And then I think Adey Mara going to the Thunder is just an amazing fit because they're expected to do what it takes to bring Isaiah Hartenstein back. So Mara can plug in along with Thomas Sorber, who was their first-round pick a year ago, in behind Hartenstein. They're playing with great players. So it's going to basically be, hey, you don't have to do too much. Just go out there, focus on setting screens, rebounding, playing defense, which fits right up into his lane. So I think that's a really a good one as well.
I like what Utah's got. I said earlier, I can make a case that they're the 6th, 7th seed in the West. Am I stretching a bit? Because now you add Peterson to that young core, and let's assume they get the Kessler thing figured out. Am I overreaching on the Jazz?
No, I don't think so. I think this is a team that obviously their talent level is far better than what they've shown over the last couple of seasons where they have not tried to win very much. And we saw that firsthand when they played the Magic and had a big lead and pulled everybody out just so they could make sure they actually lost that game. And now they're turning the corner. They're going to try to win. So I think Darren Peterson's a really interesting player. It's not a perfect fit with Keontae George in the backcourt, but I think there's some things they can do there. I'm very curious to see what happens with Ace Bailey, who was their pick in the first round at number 5 a year ago, because it doesn't seem like there's really a spot for him to start now if Kessler is back, because they're going to play that jumbo starting group. But these are all good problems for Will Hardy to have to kind of figure out. Now, where it could get a little sideways is if a couple guys who need a new contract, a couple young guys are trying to find their way, we get a little bit of chirping. But that's something that the Jazz can work on and figure out throughout the course of the next few seasons.
Get to the honest stuff in a second. Let me stay with the draft. And again, speaking of opportunities, A.J. DeBonce is very talented. He's going to a team that is committed, a ton of money to Trae Young, who always wants the ball and historically does not make his teammates better. So does this hinder development for DeBonce, or are the Wizards going to realize we've got to convince Trae to be a better team guy here? So talk about that situation first, about how he fits in there, and then we can move to the business side of what the Wizards did.
Yeah, for sure. So the on-court fit should be really good with DeBonce. This Wizards team has so much young talent. Alex Sarr is coming along very quickly, played well. He's going to be their center. They've got Anthony Davis, which is funny. I was talking with some people last night, and they're like, I keep kind of forgetting he's there because he never played for them after getting traded. So you got him, Devonta, you got Keyshawn George, and now you have Trae Young. Now, what the good news is Trae Young has been at times a very willing passer when he believes in the guys that he has to pass to. So that's going to be what you're going to do if you're Washington. You're going to start kind of from day one, probably sometime in the next couple of months when they gather for these informal workouts together. It'll be starting to drill Trae Young on, all right, we need you to be a playmaker. But yeah, you'll have your chances to score, but we need you to focus on setting up the other guys. And like you said, financial situation. They committed a ton of money. I'm not stressed about the contract this year or next year for Trae Young because they have it to spend. You might as well take care of your guys. It's in year 3 and year 4 when guys like Sarr are going to be on a new contract. Who knows what's happened with Anthony Davis by that point? That's when paying Trae Young $50 million is. That's probably going to look a lot more questionable.
He's picking up the 4th-year option, Keith. You know that. I mean, there's no chance he's declining that.
Yeah, we might as well have just made that a guaranteed season with no option because the only way he'll decline that is if things have gone absolutely wonderfully and then he's looking to extend or something.
All right, let's get to the Giannis deal. In the end, maybe it was just Boston and Miami. So I'll let you share thoughts on what Milwaukee gets, what Miami gets, and Boston not doing what they did, and did it come down to not putting a guy that averaged 4 points a game in the package? I don't think that was the case, but I'll give you the floor for all those teams and Giannis.
Yeah, I mean, the Heat got it done at the end of the day. And what's important to note here is Miami, they did up their offer as things went along. They had kind of tried to hold firm on not including Kasparis Yakushonis in the deal. Well, he ended up in the final deal. They had held firm at only 2 first-round picks. Well, that ended up turning into 3 plus a swap, plus a second. Who really cares about that part there? And in addition, Miami also in this trade had to take back Bobby Portis's contract as well. So it wasn't a case where the Heat just held firm with their offer and the Celtics wouldn't up theirs. Miami did end up upping theirs. I think Milwaukee played this right by kind of playing both sides against each other. Where Boston held firm reportedly was on Jaylen Brown and 2 first-round picks. When Milwaukee requested 1 or both, depending on which report you're going with, Hugo Gonzalez or Baylor Shireman, plus a 3rd first-round pick. That's when Brad Stevens and the Celtics said that's too rich for us. We have to back out now. That's not. We're trading Jaylen Brown. He's a great player in his own right. We don't need to also add multiple first-round picks beyond 2, as well as those guys. The Celtics went to a 2nd first-round pick because they recognized the number 27 pick in this year's draft didn't have super huge value to Milwaukee, but they were not going to go any further than 1 more future first.
Before I ask you about Jaylen Brown's future, let me stay with Milwaukee. This deal won't be consummated till July the 6th, and I think it'll be fascinating to see what the end deal is. I don't know, and my guess is the package that the Bucks got from Miami, that will not be on the roster when the year begins. Some of that, I don't know if they try to move a Tyler Hero or a Jaime Jaquez. You're talking about guys that are due for extensions as well. Your thoughts on what Milwaukee may do moving forward before July 6th?
Yeah, for sure. They're sending all of the signs that, we intend to keep Tyler Hero. We're really excited. He's a Wisconsin native. I mean, maybe, sure. It's the value of keeping Tyler Hero going into next season is with the lottery reform, you can no longer go into next season saying, who cares if we win 15 games or whatever. And that you can't do that. The Bucks also don't own all of their future picks themselves moving forward. So you're really in a position where it becomes, all right, well, we might as well keep Tyler Hero. Maybe he helps us win some games. All of that said, if one of these teams that, whether it's they struck out on other targets or they struck out in the draft on adding a guy who can shoot and score, Tyler Hero is going to have trade interest. So I'm with you where the value here is this trade can't go final for another about week and a half or so. So we're definitely in a place where I think we could see this expand, ultimately maybe include a 3rd team. I don't think it changes the overall what the Heat are sending out. That won't adjust anybody. Maybe where some of those players are going, maybe go somewhere else. And with Miami trying to retool their roster, they may want to look to move Bobby Portis. Again, they're saying they're happy to have him, and maybe they are. He's a nice 3rd big with Giannis and Bam, but we'll see, how that ultimately comes together as well.
Let me just stay with Miami. It's going to be a unique combo with Bam and Giannis, and their defense is going to be great. But you know far better than me, and others have talked about this. I don't know how they keep Norm Powell because the number there. They got to field a roster. The Heat are great about finding the Duncan Robinsons and Matt Struces of the world and players like that, but how does Miami fit out the rest of that roster? Because I'm going to guess right now, do you think that that's a contending team in the East?
Yeah, it's not. They don't have enough shooting around these guys. I mean, their best shooter right now on the roster might be, Davian Mitchell, and he's a questionable shooter. Pella Larson is a guy can maybe shoot a little bit, but if you factor in the Heat, if you just get to, all right, we're going to fill out with minimums to get where we need to be, and then we're going to try to re-sign a guy like Norman Powell. They just don't have the room to do that because they're going to be hard capped at the first apron. So there's already been reporting that they're kind of resigned to maybe losing Norman Powell. But I will say this: they managed all of these aprons and the luxury tax and cap rules and trade rules better than most do. So there's always the option. Maybe Andrew Wiggins opts out, lowers his number, gets more years added onto his deal. Maybe they find a trade for Nikola Jovic's contract. That could even be part of expanding this deal with Milwaukee, where Jovic is spun off somewhere else. They'll find a way to get quality players in there, and I'm not fully ruling out them returning Norman Powell either.
Let's go to Boston with Jaylen Brown. Brad Stevens, he probably saw the same thing. He gave the right answer to the question about Jaylen Brown. And I think we all get emotional. I'm not quite sure that you can't work things out and he's back there, but give me your thoughts after what went down and what you think now happens in Boston. Is there still a pursuit to say, hey, give me a call? I'm not aggressively looking to deal him, but I'll certainly take calls.
Yeah, for sure. And Brad Stevens has said for a while now, including when it came up that Jaylen Brown was being offered for Kevin Durant a few years back. Brad Stevens, and I'm paraphrasing a little, but he said some version of, when you're trying to trade for really good players, sometimes you need to trade other really good players. And he said that, and he didn't speak to Brown specifically at that point, but he basically made that point as, hey, this is, what happens is sometimes. And, that's what I would tell any of our players on the roster if they ask me. Now, I think he also made it pretty clear without saying it last night in his comments that, this may be the end of the road for Jaylen Brown with the Celtics. There's been a lot of reporting that Jaylen Brown is ready for a trade and is ready to go to his own team. I think you put it exactly right when you said everybody's saying the right things here, but what's going to actually happen, that still remains to be seen. But if the Celtics want to make a major improvement to their roster and look very different, the logical path to that is probably by trading Jaylen Brown. All that said, if we get to training camp and he's still on the team, I'm not going to be shocked either because like they showed in the Milwaukee deal, they have so far they will go, and they're not going to just give Jaylen Brown away. It's going to have to be something that improves the team and puts them, even better into title contention than they may already be.
Shock a couple of days ago when the news that Dusty May, who just won a national championship at Michigan, was going to take the Dallas Mavericks job. There's a little bit of a domino to this so he now decided, and maybe it was the new front office at Dallas, maybe it is Cooper Flagg, maybe John Shire said no because he likes his contract or likes his team or owes it to Mike Krzyzewski. But Dusty May does take that job. I know some wonder, did the Magic kick the tires? Was it something that Dusty was not interested in? So what's your thoughts on the move by Dusty May?
Yeah, very surprising. Anytime it's a college coach moving into the NBA level, it does surprise a little bit there. I think this is an interesting hire by Dallas. Now, what's good, I think, is Dusty May is not one of these 30-year college coaches who is, he's the institution in college, like we've seen fail when it was like Rick Pitino and John Calipari and John Beilein. Those guys did not go well because those guys kind of, hey, like it's my show in college, and at the NBA level, it's not that way. It's not a coach's game per se. So I think May is a younger guy. He's very grounded in analytics. He has shown the ability to tweak and adjust his style of the way his teams play to the personnel he has. So I think this is a really interesting fit for the Mavericks. The last kind of coach to make this transition successfully was Brad Stevens, and you can see shades of what Boston and Brad Stevens did in Dusty May.
Support his work on X or Twitter, Keith Smith NBA, or draft coverage tonight. Lots of news happening in the NBA. Thank you, Keith. Appreciate it.
I I appreciate it. Thanks so much for having me.
Chris and I talked briefly about it earlier. The NFL decided they needed a headline yesterday in the middle of all this basketball talk. So the news came out that Brendan Sorsby's plans to enter a supplemental draft are not likely going to happen. Why? Because the league said there's not a supplemental draft. Why did they do that? Is there any legal case of Brendan Sorsby with a guy that has experience of suing and some success against the NFL? That story next. It is interesting. We talked about this during the whole Brendan Sorsby process and Texas Tech rolling up their sleeves and the position of everybody, including the SEC and the Big Ten and a lot of people in the media, and then what went down in the Big 12 and challenging Brett Yormark and what he would do. And maybe little did we know, off in the corner was the National Football League going, well, we'll see if it ever gets to us. And we saw what happened yesterday. The National Football League made it very clear that they're not going to put a supplemental draft on for Brendan Sorsby. And if you've not yet read the letter that the league put out, it's worth the time because, as I've said, when the adults in the room need to step up and show leadership in college sports, it's hard to happen. The National Football League, they didn't care what anybody says or wants to challenge them legally. They just said pretty much, it's not a right, it's a privilege to play in the National Football League, and we'll enforce what we believe are the rules that have been collectively bargained. Our next guest, we'll do a little bit deeper dive, maybe on the legal side of what we watched. Eric Blevins is the sports law program manager for the Center for Sport at Tulane University, and is kind to join us. Eric, good morning. Thanks for joining us. How are you?
I'm great, Mark. Thanks for having me.
Let me just a 30,000-foot view. When you learned of the news and read the letter put out by the National Football League, your initial thought was what?
Well, my initial thought was not total surprise. I think that you got to start with the nature of what's going on here. That gambling is, as we know, really a cardinal sin in professional sports. So it's no surprise that the NFL would take a really strong stance against it. But you mentioned the letter, and I think the letter is really interesting. So the way that the league expressed their opposition to Brendan Sorsby's situation was really interesting.
Go ahead and follow. Explain why.
Yeah. So the first thing that jumps out to me is the letter signed by the NFL's top lawyer, Larry Ferrazzani. So it's not just a letter. It's really more of a first filing in what the league probably expects is a potential lawsuit. The other thing that really interests me is the letter's pretty long, and it didn't have to be. I mean, the letter could have been really short and said, we, the NFL, are choosing not to hold a draft. But it goes into a lot of detail. And you mentioned some of those items that are in the letter, but one of them that I thought was really interesting was it doesn't just say, hey, you filed your petition for supplemental draft too late and you didn't address your gambling issues. It does say that, but it also talks about really kind of takes Sorsby to task over accountability. And so it's clear that the NFL is not just concerned about the gambling, which it is, and gambling on his own team, but it's really upset with Sorsby's sort of actions after he got caught and in suing the NCAA and not just sort of taking accountability and saying, you know what, I'm going to sit this out. So the league clearly is not just upset about what he did, but how he reacted to it as well.
Before I ask you about Jeffrey Kessler's legal road here, I'm going to ask you about the NFL. I don't think that letter gets released unless the league feels confident about where they sit legally. Would you agree?
I do. I really do. And Jeffrey Kessler came out and said, actually, that they found out through the media. So apparently the NFL released the letter to the media first, according to Jeffrey Kessler. So I do think the NFL feels really strong about it. I think that they do see legal action coming, but it's why they've put their lawyer out as sort of the tip of the spear on this one. And it's not surprising because the collective bargaining agreement, which is the contract between the players and the owners that governs a lot of the rules of the road of the league, has some pretty clear, strong language in favor of the NFL here. It gives them really wide discretion as to whether they hold a supplemental draft or not. And the letter says, and the league's position is that, look, we're just not going to hold a supplemental draft. We don't have to. That's what this collective bargaining agreement allows us to do, is to decide, and we're deciding not to. Now, the letter goes into some of those reasons, or maybe not explicit reasons, and that's what's interesting is how the league is teeing this up, But the collective bargaining agreement itself, I think, does give the NFL a really good starting point for its legal argument. And then, we can talk more about where Sorsby goes from there, and then it gets even more interesting.
Eric, let's go now to the Kessler side. He's had success with the National Football League over the years. So what is a potential legal path? What might be an argument that he can make?
Yeah, so there's kind of two elements to it. There's the substantive argument, and then the second part is how can he actually make that argument? So what's the argument he could make? I think one of the ways he could attack this is by saying, look, the draft eligibility and disciplining a player are two different things, okay? NFL, you might say that Sorsby has violated an NFL rule, and the NFL actually changed its rules a few years ago to allow it to punish players for conduct that happened before they entered the league, just for situations like this. So the NFL could discipline him over his pre-league gambling. But what the argument would be is that you can't just say he's not able to enter the draft. You need to follow the disciplinary procedures in the CBA. So the remedy for the NFL is just to discipline him. And I think that they could point to at least one past precedent, which is the Terrell Pryor situation back in 2011. I'm sure you recall the tattoo gate where Pryor and other Ohio State players were allegedly receiving tattoos in exchange for memorabilia. And the NCAA suspended Pryor 5 games. And he said, no, I'm not going to serve that. I'm just going to go to the NFL. The NFL allowed him into the supplemental draft and then suspended him for the 5 games afterwards, which was controversial at the time. But Sorsby could say, look, I'm eligible. The rules are very simple as to what eligibility requires. I'm over 3 years out from high school. I'm eligible. There's no reason for you to not allow me to enter the supplemental draft. And if you think you've got a case to discipline me, then just let me in and discipline me like you did with Terrell Pryor. There's going to be some problems with that. I think the second piece is how does he make that argument? So there's really kind of two ways he could do it. And the first is the CBA allows the NFLPA to bring what's called a non-injury grievance. So the NFLPA could, on Sorsby's behalf, make that argument and say, we have a grievance and follow the procedures that are prescribed in the collective bargaining agreement. I think the CBA does allow the NFLPA to do that. The problem is more practical. I can't think of a reason why it would, because the PA doesn't want us. The PA has an interest in keeping gambling out as well. So I think that it's technically possible, but I'm having trouble thinking of why the PA would do it. So assuming the PA says no, we're not going to back you on this, well, then there's a chance that Sorsby could file his own lawsuit. And he could potentially file an antitrust lawsuit because he's not an NFL player. He's not a member of the union yet. But there's a lawsuit also involving another Ohio State player, Maurice Clarett, that you probably also remember from about 20 years ago, that's going to really make that difficult for him and probably is going to foreclose that. And after that, I really have trouble seeing what Sorsby's legal options are. There's maybe some other claims he could make in a lawsuit, but I think they're really, really difficult. So basically, I think his best chance is convincing the PA to take this up for him. And if he has to file his own lawsuit, I just think it's going to be really, really tough.
Let me follow up. One is kind of an opinion, and you can share your thoughts. The other is about the PA, and I'll give you that question now, and then you can answer afterwards, is when does one become a member of the Players Association where then you are entitled to get representation for legal matters? But in a certain way, Eric, I think the National Football League was so smart here because, in my view, they are suspending him now. And my point is saying we're not going to do this draft for you. We'll come back, and you're going to sit out this year. You're eligible in April, and if you do this now, we're not hurting your draft stock because you'll go into the pool next year. If we allow you to get drafted and then take action, that would be unfair to a team that would be drafting you. So I think, in a way, the league is telling you, Yeah, we're going to suspend you for the year, but we're not going to hurt your draft stock. You'll serve that by sitting out. And then in 27, a team doesn't have to worry about you missing time, and it won't hurt your draft stock. That's just one person's thought from way out. You can comment on that. And then the other part is, when does one get the rights of a Players Association defense?
Yeah, Mark, I think you've hit the nail on the head that the NFL is kind of suspending him without suspending him, and it's a interesting way of doing it. And I think that maybe they are concerned that they don't want to allow him in the league, put that pressure on the teams, and then potentially have to go through a fight of suspending him and dealing with other precedent like Keishon Butte, who entered the league, and Hunter Deckers with some gambling-related issues. So I think you're right. I think that's kind of the strategy the NFL is going for here. When does a player become a member of the PA? Well, it's when they are enter the draft and sign a contract. So he's not a member of the PA, but I also believe that he doesn't necessarily have to be an NFL player for the NFLPA to take up this grievance, because the NFLPA not only represents the interests of the players, but it also represents the interests of future players, which was an issue that was decided in that Maurice Clarett case. One other really interesting note that might foreshadow some of what's going on here with Clarett is that Clarett was decided in 2004, and the NFLPA actually sided against Maurice Clarett in that case. They filed a brief on the NFL side disagreeing with Clarett's argument that he should be able to enter the draft without waiting the 3 years. So does that suggest that the PA is less likely to support Sorsby here? Yeah, I think it does. And by the way, the lawyer who filed the brief, or was one of the lawyers who filed the brief for the NFLPA in the Clarett case, I'll give you one guess.
Jeffrey Kessler.
Jeffrey Kessler.
Yeah. It'll be interesting. I don't think they'll win, but he won't go down without a fight. Eric is on X or Twitter at Eric J. Blevins. He's a sports law program manager at Tulane Center for Sports. Eric, thanks. Really appreciate it.
Thanks, Mark. Thanks for having me.
We'll see what happens with Sorsby. Chris, again, that's what I think the league's done here. We're suspending you for a year. You may not like it, but now in April, there's no concern about you missing time. That would impact your draft stock. So we're going to say, hey, he's free draft. Whatever. You want to take him in the first round? He's not going to miss any time. Why? Because he's going to miss this year.
I was thinking about that. It's almost like a win-win, honestly, for everyone involved.
Well, Sorsby would not think it's a win because he's missing out on whatever payment he didn't get from Texas Tech, even though he got to keep it, and he has no.
Oh, boo-hoo. He's already got $3+ million. I'm sure he'll be fine for a year.
Well, what is that? If you sign up, it's $200 in bonus. Oh, that's not that was way out of line. That was way out of line. I really take that back. Okay.
Do you though?
Or really take it back. The behind the scenes show within the show of the Beat of Sports. Join us in the stream now. If you're on the YouTube page, stay there. If you're not, go there. We're just gonna give you a chance to see what it's like behind the scenes for the next couple of breaks, and see how exciting it is. Maybe me scrolling through my phone or looking for copy, or Chris eating a snack or something. But that's on the YouTube stream, 96 The Game Orlando. Click on the logo on the live button, or catch us on Twitter. Just go to 96.9 Game On. World Cup update. All right, everyone's played 2 matches now in the World Cup. Yesterday, the questions about Cristiano Ronaldo. He scored twice. Portugal beat Uzbekistan 5-0. Our World Cup coverage is brought to you by friends at Fiddler's Green Irish Pub. England and Ghana played. It was 0-0 draw. A controversy about whether penalty should have been called in the box on England in the 76th minute. It was not called. Harry Kane had a great scoring opportunity later. He didn't score, and those two teams scored a draw. Croatia beat Panama 1-0, and last night Colombia over Congo 1-0. Today, among World Cup action, we begin teams playing their third and final match of group play. Bosnia-Herzegovina and Qatar play at 3 o'clock, as does Switzerland and Canada. And later tonight, Morocco and Haiti go at 6, and Scotland and Brazil will go at 6. That is in Miami. The crowd will be insane as the Tartan Army and Brazilian fans. Later tonight, Czechia, Mexico, and South Africa and Korea. 6 matches today. Our World Cup update brought to you by Fitters Green Irish Pub. Does your wife do this?
What?
Hold on. Yeah. Like, you just ask a question about something. Like, ask my wife. I saw this, like, obscure charge.
Mm-hmm.
I just said, hey, I'm just checking. And then she's like, here's the receipt of what it's for. Then, like, I feel like an idiot. Like, oh, oxygen in the house. Okay, yeah, well, do that, right? Yeah. Then I had another dumb moment.
Mm.
You know what a gas line is? You'll see the people put like a little yellow flag in the right. So I was out and I'm looking, and I said to my youngest daughter, I go, "What are those flags in the yard?" And she goes, "It's the gas line." I go, "Gas line? We don't have a gas line. I've only lived in my house for 16 years, and my oven is gas." I'm like, "Gas line? What?" Yeah.
I love my wife very much. This is
My wife's on her 4th text now, yelling at me.
I love my wife very much. She got me the smoker kit for my birthday. She ordered it off my Amazon account.
Uh-huh.
And anytime you make a purchase off my Amazon account, I get the email notification. She's like, "How did you know?" Like,
yeah.
You ordered it off my Amazon account.
Right. Yeah. Right. I know. Crazy sometimes. You just look
Does
up.
she ever try and justify why she got what she got? Your wife? Mine does.
No. I'm more of the pain in the what, because I'm so anal in this goes back several years, and all of us at some point you get a security breach, and then there's just something charged, and we had this. It's been years now where like somebody bought like a bedroom set for like a couple $1,000s and accessed the account or came out of our account. So I check, and if I see something obscure, like I never question my wife on like an Amazon charge,
Right.
but there's like, I don't know what that symbol is. I don't know what that is. And then I'll ask, and then sometimes you just get the basic answer like, God, it was dumb on my part. You're just like, yeah, all right. I don't know. So yeah, that happens to me. Yeah. See, this is text number 5.
Uh-oh.
Yeah. Uh-huh.
Just can't question.
By the way, yesterday, somebody in the Big 12 play-by-play guy group chat that I never, okay. Remember, they didn't do that for my birthday, but somebody won an award, and it wasn't the person who won the award, but somebody else says, hey, congratulations, right? And then it just, it's just piling on. So, I mean, you got to say something. Hey, congrats, so-and-so, right? And this conference stretches from the Eastern time zone out to Arizona.
Right.
How about this on Father's Day?
Oh, boy.
Somebody sent a text at 7:10 Eastern time. That means the dudes in Arizona got a text at 4 a.m.
Yeah.
Like, you got to
Read the
Like-
room. Know your audience.
Like, I was up running, but like 4 in the morning. Come on, man.
I put my phone on sleep mode because I get tons of like sports updates, email, whatever notification. My phone's vibrating all night,
Oh,
so I
I
just
don't
put
do
it on
that.
sleep.
I don't do that. That's got to be the worst.
Why?
All the notifications of what, like a cowboy tweet that somebody put out or
Well,
something?
that's what I'm saying. So my phone goes to sleep. Like I put my phone on sleep so it doesn't vibrate.
What if you need to like?
Who's gonna call? No one's gonna call me.
Of course, the other night, my wife says, "Hey, text our oldest," and said, "Make sure she texts you when she gets home." She was going out. But okay. I get in bed at like 12:30. She texts at 1:15. I completely missed it. My wife goes, "Did she text last night?" I go, "No." Oh, yeah. Like, I don't know. Yeah. Like, what's the point? And the phone was up as loud as can be, And it just had that look. She's like, and I got nothing. Yeah, I'm sorry. I got nothing. Yeah, nothing. I get that all the time. Just that look of what are we relying on you for here? Okay. Like, what else are you bringing to the table here? Like what can you do here? What am I going to do? Sorry. But your family comes home today.
Yep. Wife's on the plane.
Did you clean the house up?
I did.
Yeah,
I did.
No, did you really clean it up, or did you just like move things around? Like when she walks in, is she going to be like, "Oh no"?
No, again, for a majority of the time that she was gone, I was working. So there's
All right.
there's no dishes.
All right.
Our bathroom is clean. Our room is clean. The house was like the living room is all cleaned up. Of course, my daughter's got her stuff everywhere in the playpen and everything, but
Okay.
everything.
By the way, my garbage wasn't picked up on Monday.
Mm-hmm.
I was nervous to call to tell them because I don't want to piss off my garbage man. Like, yo, the dude at such and such address complained we forgot, and next thing you know,
how
he
full was
purposely
it?
lifts up the thing and just drops the trash all over the place.
Well, speaking of that, did you see the J.P. Morgan Chase employee that got fired?
Yeah.
What are we doing?
No, my garbage can was full, and it's still sitting out there because they were supposed to pick it up yesterday. Nope. Yeah. Do the news.
Let's really do the news.
Yes. Now it is time to do the news.
But now it's time for the news.
11 o'clock hour, WYGM Orlando, WJRHC2 Cocoa Beach, Orlando Sports Leader. NBA draft last night, AJ DeBonsta goes 1, Darren Peterson 2. Nothing shocking in round 1. Round 2 later tonight, Magic of the 46th overall pick. We'll see if they keep it as the second round gets underway. We mentioned a little bit of the Brendan Sorsby story, but the other big news in college sports yesterday, as now becomes a formal vote that should pass, is a new 5-for-5 eligibility rule in college sports. Basically says no more medical red shirts, no more red shirting. Your clock starts when you step on campus, and it's a 5-year clock, and you got 5 years to play. I don't want to do a deep dive. There is a big ripple effect on this because you do have some teams and coaches that had thought maybe I got to prepare. Now they will have to prepare. You will get some players that are going to get run off because a lot of coaches don't want people to have a 5th year. You got a bunch of lawsuits now because this does not apply to players that just finished their 4-year eligibility clock. But the 5-for-5 is not shocking. It was expected to pass, and it did indeed pass. World Cup continues the busy schedule, as we said today. Let's see. What else do we have here for you? By the way, Mike Inori is the new coach of the Portland Trailblazers. Did you see the deal that he signed?
Mm-mm.
It's a 1-year deal. Tom Dundon took a lot of heat, the owner of the Stanley Cup champion Carolina Hurricanes, when he took the Portland job that when he bought the team of cutting costs and stuff. It's a 1-year deal with incentives and opportunities to extend the deal. It's
You're not going to get a lot of coaches that want that.
he got him. He got him. The White Sox won their 41st game, beating the Guardians yesterday that matched their win total last year.
Wow.
They were 41-1, 21. They have 41 wins now with that win. Again, 6 more matches in the World Cup today. Scotland and Brazil, not in Miami, but South Broward, North Dade County at Hard Rock Stadium is going to be just bouncing today. And what else did I have for you? 104 years ago today, the NFL got its modern name, rebranding to the National Football League before its third season kicked off in the fall of 1922. The original names of the NFL, the original name of the NFL. You have an idea what it was? You don't have any idea. The American Professional Football Association.
I would have got that.
The APFA.
I would have got that.
National Football League just sounds a lot better.
Yeah.
And it rolls off the tongue there. It's a lot easier. Little bit later in the program or this hour, I'm a little bit concerned about a sporting event locally here. I'll explain that in about 25 minutes. We come back. Patrick Crates, our good friend and a longtime sports TV executive, will share some thoughts about a whole bunch of things happening in college sports. The whole Protect College Sports Act, among the items in there was a pooling of media rights, which the SEC and the Big Ten strongly oppose. Someone that did it and does it for a living will explain why it doesn't work, or maybe why it does work, and some other sports media stuff we'll get to with Patrick next.
He's the voice you trust for the teams you love. You're listening to Marc Daniels and the Beat of Sport.
We talked the last couple of weeks, all this stuff in Congress with college sports, Protect College Sports Act, the other measures that have either not gotten anywhere in Congress, and the Protect College Sports Act maybe gets out of a committee. I don't know if it passed the Senate, but one of the more interesting things of it, which the Big Ten and SEC have never liked, was a suggestion of pooling media rights. The thought is that if you pooled all the media rights, you can make so much more money, and that would help non-revenue sports. And the Big Ten and SEC have pushed back on that, and maybe for obvious reasons, but I don't even know if that's true. So our next guest maybe has a better idea of that for his career. Patrick Krates has been the sports TV executive and has a better idea about these contracts. I enjoy catching up every quarter or 6 months with Patrick to chat about sports media things. Patrick, welcome back. Good morning. How are you?
Hey, Mark. I'm doing great. How about you?
Fine, thank you. Let me ask you, I'm sure you followed to a degree some of the stuff that was in Washington and this Protect College Sports Act. The idea of pooling media rights is not new. That's been suggested by some for quite some time. So I'm going to ask you, when you hear that idea about pooling all rights for college sports, your response is what from the industry side?
Well, there's no lift there. If there was lift, it would already exist.
Mm-hmm.
So the truth of the matter is the top 20 college football programs probably generate 85-90% of all. Anybody's free to do a deal with the University of Idaho anytime they want to. No one does. So the truth of the matter is that college sports in the United States is a wonderful thing. And we treat it kind of as a quasi-public good. And we love the fact that people play football at the schools, or they play basketball, and they play lots of sports that don't generate a lot of revenue across the fruited plain, so to speak, Mark. But the truth of the matter is, from a media perspective, the economics are concentrated in college football, and they're concentrated around these top schools. It's a very, very power law kind of thing. And so if you're suggesting somehow there's all this media left, and some of the projections from some of the folks aligned with this movement suggest enormous media. There's a whole problem with just how the system pays for that. All right, that even if it was true, it can't possibly be true on that basis, but it's just not true. And the proof is today, the media rights without those the media rights not connected to the top college football schools are generally worth about zero.
Is their product undervalued? Because going to market, let's just take the Big Ten, SEC. They still end up competing with whoever else may be up. With the professional sports as well. But when you look at college rights, is there anything undervalued?
Well, I think if you take a look at, I think college sports is probably undervalued. But that's the tier one stuff, right? The tier one stuff, of which there are 5 or 6 types of sports or leagues, are probably all undervalued. Sports has never been more valued in aggregate, but when it comes to media rights fees, multi-year contraction, $1 billion with escalators, those sports are probably undervalued to some extent. The question is, how much is there really in the system to fund whatever a projection of value is? And there's a lot of assumptions about the revenue engine behind this, which today, Mark, even with its secular decline, 90% of the economics come from pay TV. So 60 million US TV homes, there's 115 or 120 million US TV homes. At one point at its peak, it was in 90 some odd percent of US pay TV homes, now about half. But the truth is, the broadcast television stations, which are inside pay TV, and which almost all viewing to broadcast television comes from pay TV homes, pay something called retransmission fees, and those retransmission fees power all these sports deals. That's why the NFL's on broadcast television. Yes, non-traditional players that have their businesses in digital, even if they're video, they're not long-form video. Those folks have entered in, but they haven't entered in at scale. They haven't flipped any tables over. They've been incremental to supporting the system. So So the revenue engine that would pay for this undervalue, right, in any future negotiations is a declining pay TV universe that is becoming increasingly sports centric and is as such working right now. But it's not necessarily capable of handling, some projections are for the Big Ten during that private credit opportunity they went through, a 3x in 15 years off their media rights, which would take them like to $8-9 billion a year. It's very hard for anybody who really understands the math behind this to actually advocate that, which is why the networks don't expand and do all the other things that everybody suggests they should, because they know the system can't handle it, at least at this point.
I want to ask you, and tell me if my observation is wrong here. The college football media runs to Dallas and Chicago and all the places that they have these meetings behind closed doors and have sources about expansion of 16 to 24. Am I wrong in assuming the decision about going to 16 or 24 lies in the hands of Fox and Disney and Paramount?
Well, it does in the sense that they're the buyers for this. If you take a look at this, there's some suggestions all the time. Some of the answers I get from, like who's going to buy these things, from very, very smart, sophisticated people is, well, Amazon has enough money to pay for it. Like that's some kind of business model, right? So right now, you're right. It's those traditional media companies that are connected to pay TV, and they do have a say because they're the ones paying all the bills. When Washington and Oregon joined the Big Ten, they get half shares. They get reduced shares because there was no way to expand them, and because the money from pay TV wasn't there to pay them a full share. So they joined, as secondary revenue members. So they're going to have a say about the expansion, and they're going to have a say about how much revenue it generates. There's no doubt in my mind that it would be accretive. College football playoff, again, fits into this tier one category. It's special. The question is how much so in the short run. And the numbers are pretty good, Mark, I think, for that property, but it's not a lot of inventory. It's not a lot of inventory. And, to the point about the reason why people want to kind of try to fix college sports is because it's different than professional sports. These are all public institutions, even the Harvards of the world, thanks to financial aid and research aid from the federal and state governments, is essentially a quasi-public institution. And there's just some, they're not organized in a way like a private business. And so they have all sorts of problems, right, paying the bills. And with the college football playoff extension, which is going to be accretive and it's going to be a lot of money, it doesn't fix any of the problems. So I do understand the need to try to address these public institutions that play these sports that make all their money from media, really. That's where all the value is, really. But suggesting that just combining everything together will get more economics, as I said earlier, is not accurate. And by the way, the college football playoff expansion is going to solve none of the money issues these schools are having. So there is a need to address this in some way. But maybe perhaps the predication, there's all this money that everybody's just forgotten to get is on the table, and it's going to solve all our problems, is maybe not the right argument to lead with.
You've done a ton of work with Fox and Fox Sports. I'm curious your thoughts on how successful, as we're almost through a couple of weeks of the World Cup. The last matches of group play will begin today, and then the round of 32. The U.S. audience, I would think Fox is very happy with. It's a massive number. I've seen some of the numbers on these other matches. I know it's interesting how we calculate them with Telemundo and things like that, and also in a streaming world. But your thoughts on the World Cup as a viewing product thus far?
Well, it's been fantastic. And, I think, Eric Shanks and the rest of the senior management team, or all my good friends, are doing cartwheels down Pico Boulevard, as they should. We always knew that this, look, it's in the United States. It's got the proper time zone because of that. And it's in Mexico and Canada. We always knew it was going to be big from a revenue perspective and from a viewing perspective. All the changes that we've talked about in the past to methodological measurement of viewing has benefited out-of-home viewing and expanded the sample in a way that has also provided a tailwind to the viewing. These are always viewers that were always there, right? They just weren't measured, Mark. So it's legit, but this is the first World Cup. Comps to the last one, didn't have any of that. So the viewing from a marketplace perspective shows the importance of sports and why, we talked a little earlier about things that are valued, why these things are undervalued. It's one of the few things everybody watches together. They have to watch it immediately. And it's been culturally a fantastic thing because the U.S. men's national team got a pretty good group to be in, and they've shown up and they've won. So they're going to go on to the knockout rounds, and that's going to be fun. And if they get past the round of 16 into the round of 8, I do imagine that a lot of the country will go bananas, and that'll be a good thing. And I think this is a fun event for the summer. And it's gonna continue to advance soccer as a sport in the United States. The challenge in the United States, of course, is that soccer is really 5 or 6 different leagues, unlike with the NFL, which is either pro or college, or the NBA or the MLB. When you talk about those, you talk about pro basketball, you're talking about one entity. In the United States, with soccer professionally, you're talking about 4 or 5, to include the number 1 rated league in the United States. It's not even in English, the Liga MX.
I want to end with this. I think almost every time you're on, I ask you this about the consumer, the viewer, being challenged of bouncing to find what they're looking for, and accepting that streaming now is part of it. A smart TV makes it a little bit easier to identify where I'm going. But I'm curious if you think that we as consumers are getting better and complaining less. Are we complaining more? And does that voice matter how loud we're still complaining, or we just have to get used to it because it ain't going anywhere?
Well, look, you're right about the fractionalization. I think what's made things better was, look, how can I say yes to both, right? Complaining's help, right? But also we've gotten better. One of the things that's happened is, kind of the old distribution way of thinking has kind of fallen apart. Platforms like social media platforms and then kind of navigation platforms like Roku have merged under an umbrella that I call discovery. What they do is they've solved, in some cases for library content that's SVOD with entertainment, the what to watch problem, because on TikTok, you open it up and you get your content immediately. They solve what to watch, and it's competitive with library. But with live sports, the problem isn't what to watch. Everybody knows what they want to watch. It's how to watch. And these social media platforms have begun to assist with that, and navigation platforms like Roku assist with that. And so it's discovery, library, kind of live, are the 3 buckets. All the discovery platforms kind of many of them compete for attention with library like SVOD, which is why Netflix is beginning to show some cracks, right, on the entertainment side. But they are complementary to sports. And to your question, they help with finding how to watch. And that was probably the predication for Fox's acquisition of Roku. But that is getting easier because of how to watch problems being answered by these emerging discovery platforms that once were social or navigation, and then now the lines blurred a little bit. Well, certainly Roku's now a social platform. They solve that question, how to watch. And I think that's helping.
Patrick Krates is on X or Twitter at Aquinas82nd. I always appreciate your time. Thanks for catching up. We'll talk again down the road.
Absolutely, Mark. Have a great day.
Patrick Krates did many, many, many deals at Fox. A little bit of insight to what they're thinking about the World Cup. And as he said, they're just ecstatic because the numbers have been great. I mean, not just for the U.S. matches. And it's only going to get better as the U.S. Has opportunity to advance. When we come back, I mentioned earlier that there's a local sporting event that I think I'm a little bit worried about. I'll explain that next. New York Times drops a lengthy story on Diana Rossini. Taking like over an hour for me to read it because I'm doing a show. Nothing scandalous new, just a behind the scenes. And The Athletic is owned by the New York Times. It's a New York Times story, not written by The Athletic. And it does shed a little bit light on the behind the scenes investigation of what they were dealing with. And so, I mean, nothing like, oh, they didn't confirm it. Just a little bit more about what their process of reviewing her position, which she ultimately resigned, and work and so forth. But man, long, really, really long. I said earlier that I'm concerned about a local sporting event and so much going on with the NFL, with the Brendan Sorsby stuff and the NBA with trades and the draft and things like that. But a couple of days ago, the news came out as the PGA Tour just finished up or the U.S. Open finished up the USGA event, but the PGA Tour's at Travelers this week. And Brian Roloff, the new commissioner, rolled out the latest of this tier system in the PGA. Like, hey, we're going to have this tour, which is kind of like what you have known the PGA Tour to be, and then we're going to have this other tour below it, and there'll be some relegation and promotion. These high-end events, those will be $20 million purses, and we're going to tweak the schedule a little bit, and some of these are going to go to major cities because we want to get away from the smaller cities and start playing golf in major media markets. And here's how golfers can move up, move down, and things like that. Well, in this town, the biggest sporting event every single year is the Arnold Palmer Invitational. It's not a playoff run by the Magic. It's just an event that gathers more people than anything else. You can play an NBA season. You can do a 7-game series. That's got 4 home games, and it'll attract X amount of people. But even, the Kia Center seats, just under 19,000. So if you multiply that by 4, it doesn't equal the amount of people that will go to Bay Hill. For a number of years, the placement of that tournament mattered to Arnold Palmer when he was alive. Arnie loved the fact that players would come on the Florida swing and would go to Bay Hill. And the way the schedule originally was for many years, you'd go to Bay Hill, you play, and then take the week off before you got to the Masters. Well, then they tweaked that more when the Players' Championship first was in March, then they moved it to May, and then brought it back to March, and the placement mattered. Pre-Masters was really important to Arnie for all the years. And it helped get a great field for the Masters. 1, you didn't say no to Arnold Palmer. And 2, it just fit. And Arnie would have the course in such a way that it would almost play like a major. The rough was brought up a little bit. Greens were fast. And it was viewed by many of the world's best golfers as a perfect tune-up. Then you take the week off. It used to be you went to New Orleans, and very few players played New Orleans. And the winner in New Orleans would qualify, go to the Masters. And they've all changed that over the years. But things have changed. And it's changing back in 2027, the calendar has. The Arnold Palmer Invitational is set for March 18th to the 21st in 2027, following the Players' Championship. So now the schedule has moved the Players' Championship before the Arnold Palmer Invitational. Then you've got the Arnie. And then a couple weeks later is the Masters. My concern is if players were to pick 2, okay, it's fine. But nothing to do with politics. Since they put an event back at Doral, which happens to be owned by the President of the United States, now I'm concerned the way the schedule fits with the Arnold Palmer Invitational coming after the Players, you may get some of the world's best golfers to not play the next week. Whether you call it the 5th major or not, it is considered to be the 5th biggest golf tournament on the schedule, other than the 4 majors. And I do get a little bit uncomfortable with the idea of playing at the Players' Championship and then coming to Bay Hill the week after. And the calendar for 28 is not out. The 27 calendar is out. The 28 calendar is with all these changes. And I do wonder where the Arnold Palmer Invitational is going to fall. Because I do think if you're playing the week after the Players' Championship, you're going to lose some players. And you say, well, the purse is $20 million. Every event on this new tier system at the top tier is going to pay $20 million or more. So it's not like, well, they'll play because it's a signature event. All these are going to be $20 million or more. And Brian Roloff did say, hey, the calendar will be such that you don't have to play every single week. We'd like our golfers to play, but you don't have to play every single week. The days when somebody was waffling or on the fence about playing at the Arnold Palmer Invitational, the quickest way to end that waffling was a phone call from Arnold Palmer. That was it. You know, they came, they played. Obviously, that can't happen now. And not that the people who run the API are not very good at what they do and use the, hey, this is Arnie's event, and it's worked. I think it's tough. And I hope in 28 and moving forward that this event gets a good placement, that it doesn't risk losing what's been a very strong field. And they've had some years just for whatever that it wasn't as strong as others, but it for the most part has had a great place on the calendar where players viewed, hey, we're going to Florida, but we're playing in Orlando, and then I'll go to the Players' Championship. I mean, the ideal schedule, if we're selfish, is to come here 2 weeks later the Players and 2 weeks later the Masters, but I'm not picking the schedule. But, man, I hope as they get to finalizing a schedule in 28 and moving forward in this new calendar, new system for the PGA Tour, selfishly, I hope this is not after the Players' Championship the week after, because I think you will lose golfers. You will get some of the world's biggest names not playing here, and that would be unfortunate. And, again, I hope that – because you go, well, but it's been Arnie's tournament. Go ask the folks in Texas what's happened to the Byron Nelson event. He passed away, and that event has become a shell of what it used to be. And I hope that this event still gets protected by the PGA Tour moving forward. We come back. I got some items and notes and quotes. And Chris, I got to play another video of one of my favorite European foodies. We'll do that next.
Time for the latest news, gossip, trends, and off-the-wall stories. Trends.
That's the craziest thing I've ever heard.
John Chirwania says Austin Reeves, the new 4-year deal, $185 million for the Lakers.
Sure.
Guess he's buying tonight. Remember the story on the Fanatic Fest coming up and what they were charging for photographs for the Knicks?
Yes.
Jalen Brunson completely sold out. $937.40. Yeah, sold out. Let me play this for you, Chris. This is one of my favorite Scottish followers on Twitter.
Okay.
And he's trying something new.
West Palm, I think, and that is Publix. Majority vote. I asked on Twitter and I asked on. The vast majority said tender chicken. The other half, or maybe 30%, said Italian. So I'll do the Italian next time. But here it is. Look. Now I'm on a drive today, so I'm not going crazy with a full size one. I went with lettuce, tomato, jalapeno, and ranch sauce. I think that was a wrong sauce choice. I think I probably should have got like a buffalo or something. Anyway, whatever. It is what it is. I've got no napkins, so this is going to be a tragedy. But damn, you guys put a lot of stuff on this. Like, it's a lot of meat, it's a lot of salad, it's a lot of sauce. I'm going to make a mess, but we have to make our best. So here we go. Bottoms up. Good soft bread. The meat is tender and full of flavor. I'm not even mad about the sauce choice anymore. It's good. Publix, pub sub. Gets high marks from me. We'll be back because I now need to try the Italian one next time I'm out.
It's just great. It's just great. He's stunned at how big it is and how much is on it. Just stunned. Like, I can't believe how much you put on this thing.
I'm with him on the sauce. Like, I'm okay with the sauce. Like when I get the Publix deli dressing or oil and vinegar, I mean they load it up, and I mean my bread is soggy with how much they load it up.
Good stuff. Big match today. Scots in Brazil. Miss any of today's program? Go where you get your favorite podcast. Type of the Beat of Sports on demand. Subscribe and get the show downloaded and listen when it's convenient for you. You can watch the video stream back on our YouTube page, 96 on the Game. Click on the logo on the live button. We're back for a Thursday show tomorrow. Thanks, Chris.
Hey, Mark.
Chris produced. I'm Marc Daniels, the Beat of Sports.